So the Republican Party, as I've been saying for weeks now, is now quite clear that their intention is to repeal the Affordable Care Act within the first couple of weeks of Trump's inauguration, maybe late in January, early in February. Although it is pretty funny, they're sort of screwed here unless the Democrats help them. And the Democrats can help them in two ways. One, they can help them by fashioning a replacement bill, which would basically more or less look like Obamacare, but be called something else, which would be ridiculous for the Democrats to do because something worse than Obamacare, slightly worse than, is pretty bad. And yes, and then they own that disaster, which will be that replacement, because it's going to be a disaster. The other thing the Democrats can do to help out the Republicans is to not make it clear that even if the Republicans are successful, because internally they're having some big fights about this, in punting for 2 years or 3 years, Democrats have to make it clear that the moment you repeal it, you need to replace it, because if you don't, the whole thing falls apart, because insurance companies are not going to want to stay in the Obamacare exchanges or, frankly, in the individual market, sell a product to individuals because it will be untenable for them. Democrats have to hit this. And here's Jeff Merkley, who I really like and appreciate, but here he misses the mark. Watch this.
What is the reality of what happens once it is repealed, which is just a signature away? What about the replacement part?
Well, the Republicans are terrified of actually repealing because so many elements are quite popular. The idea that you can get insurance even if you have pre-existing conditions, the fact that children can stay on your policy to age 26, the investment in prevention because prevention is so much smarter than treating diseases down the road. All these elements really resonate. So now what the Republicans are talking about is saying, well, we're going to repeal it, but we're only going to make that come into effect 3 years from now because we know there'll be a big backlash from Americans if we take away these very popular elements of making health care work for all Americans.
Okay. Here's why that's the wrong approach by Merkley. He's smart to point out those things that people like about Obamacare. But what he should be saying is, look, if the Republicans want to repeal Obamacare and leave those provisions, that's all well and good, but you're going to destroy health insurance for millions of Americans because the insurance companies are not going to continue to offer it. So when this falls apart, this is on the Republicans. The moment they repeal it, people are going to lose their health insurance. They may not lose it the next day, but they're going to lose it within a couple of months. That's sealed. That's on the Republicans. Because let me show you what the Republicans are going to try and do. They're going to repeal it, and then they're going to say the reason why bad things are happening is because either Obamacare was on its last legs or because the Democrats wouldn't help us do what we all agreed need to have happen. And here is that pathological fake vice president. Is it fake news or fake vice president? The pathological liar, Mike Pence, to make that case right now.
Vice President-elect Mike Pence was speaking to the ease of repeal and the difficulty of replace in actual practice recently. Here's the sound.
We're going to keep our promise to the American people, and we're going to repeal Obamacare, lock, stock, and barrel. But what we're also going to do is work with members of the House and Senate to ensure an orderly transition. And the length of time that will take will be a subject of legislative debate, and we'll fill in the substance of that.
Well, that's
okay. So that orderly transition, when people start realizing that insurance companies are exiting not just the exchanges, but the entire individual health insurance markets, That orderly transition is going to fall apart. And the Republicans, their one opportunity is to blame the Democrats. And Democrats right now have to basically wall that off. Chuck Schumer has come out and said, we're not getting involved in the replacement part. Smart thing to announce. They have to hold to that. The fighting that's going on in the Republican Party about what the timeline for the repeal. Now, remember, still have a lot of people who want to sort of claim the mantle of being the leaders of the Freedom Caucus. And the Freedom Caucus in the Senate, whatever they call themselves. They're going to push for this to be repealed quicker. There is no replacing this. There is no replacing this in a way that turns out where you have people who are insured and that it's cheaper. It's not possible. And the Republicans know this. And so the one thing that they're trying to figure out is, how do we do this without getting blamed for it? And the only ways that they can do this without getting blamed for it is to simply argue that Obamacare is falling apart on its own accord. Which in some respects, it's arguable because they haven't fixed the easy fixes that need to be fixed. But insurance companies are they're going to have to figure out a way to pay for things like no rescission, no lifetime caps, no pre-existing conditions denials.
What?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But just, for those of us who were involved in watching carefully the fight to save Social Security in 2005, when George Bush announced he was going to try and privatize Social Security. Before Katrina, before people soured on the war, he lost that Social Security fight. And that basically showed the weakness there. There's going to be a lot of horrible things that are going to happen with the Republicans. There's just no avoiding it. They control everything. But a big problem out the gate, frankly. They're going to repeal it. It's not going to be, huge fanfare. But then over the coming months, they need to be hammered on this. And people need to spread the word as to, once they set that repeal, it's like basically pushing a rock down a hill that halfway down the hill is a huge cliff. And at one point it's going to be a disaster. And this could be the thing that makes it slightly possible the Democrats could take the Senate in 2018. And by slightly possible, I mean like single digits is possible.
It's a hard map.
Highly, highly unlikely. But if the insurance falls apart in the second year of this, they're going to have some Lucy gonna be in trouble. All right.
Oh, my Lord, that's my joke. I said that to the Puerto Rican lady that was going to be the Supreme Court Justice. We're all going to die.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.